Hello, Billy Bob Thornton here, and I'm here to talk to you about some signs of a new Satanic Age. Uh, Brought forth in the Satanic Bible, uh, some evidence of a new Satanic Age. I'm just going to go over a few points on this, and then uh, he also wrote some evidence of a new Satanic Age Part 2 in the Devil's here, in the Devil's Notebook. But I will get to the second book here in a second. But first of all, uh, the first paragraph says the seven deadly sins of the Christian church are greed, pride, envy, anger, gluttony, lust, and sloth. Satanism advocates indulgence in each of these sins, quote unquote, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. He discussed this earlier on, I think, in the book, but I'm not real sure. I haven't read it in a while, but except in my videos I've been making recently. But that's just me skipping through the different points. He goes on to the different points here, and then finally, as I was kind of skimming through this, I didn't read it all the way through. I just wanted to read part of it, kind of get a few points going for my video. And one point he says, since man's natural instincts lead him to sin, all men are sinners, and all sinners go to hell. Well, there's a lot of truth in there. I mean, Christianity has placed a lot of sins on pretty much our natural instincts, and so yeah, it's kind of hard. That's kind of why I quit being a Christian, because I thought they were being kind of harsh, and whatnot, and that's why I became a Satanist, because I get to indulge in the seven deadly sins, because I believe that these are just natural instincts that were nature placed in us. And anyway, if everyone goes to hell, then you will meet all your friends there. Well, you also meet all your enemies there too, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, heaven must be populated with some rather strange creatures if all they lived for was to go to a place where they can strum harps for eternity. I don't want to strum a harp for eternity. Seriously, I like playing guitar. Yeah, you would think I might want to play a harp, but no, I don't want to serve. I don't even want to serve a god here on earth other than myself. So why would I want to go to a place for eternity just to serve a deity? Fuck that. Next point. If many religions are denying their own scriptures because they are out of date and are preaching, well, first of all, some background stuff. He basically goes through and talks about how religions, specifically Christianity, are modernizing themselves. And he goes on to talk about how Christianity, how if ministers or priests or reverends or whatever you want to call them, use the techniques that they are using today, 100 or so years ago, they would be burned at the stake as heretics. Anyway, he says, by the way, I'm reading from page, this section is on page 46. I'm over here, down there somewhere. If many religions are denying their own scriptures because they are out of date and are preaching the philosophies of Satanism, why not call it by its rightful name, Satanism? Well, I've got your answer. People are self-righteous. That's why they are willing to partake in sins of the flesh, but they are refusing to call themselves what they truly are, because they are self-righteous and they want to go to heaven and blah, 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 blah. That's just all to it. I mean, that's just how things are. Okay, next point is, past religions have always represented the spiritual nature of man, with little or no concern for his carnal or mundane needs. Well, that I tried a few other spiritual religions before I finally settled in on Satanism. I mean, Um, but and in those religions, your spiritual path was most important, except for maybe Gnosticism, where your mind was more important than anything else. And I think Wicca's the same way about religion, study as heavy as it did some other religions. But anyway, next point. Church picnics, despite all of Aunt Martha's talk about the Lord's bountiful harvest, are nothing more than a good excuse for Sunday gluttony. And everyone knows that lots more than Bible reading goes on in the bushes. Well, I kind of marked that down there to kind of give you an example of how LaVey was dissing Christianity, but it doesn't, you know, so yeah, and but I'll post a link to a PDF of all of LaVey's books. If I can find them, I'll do an internet search and see what I can find, and I'll try and post all of LaVey's works in of his 5 books in the D-bar, so you can read them for yourself. And if you can't read or have trouble reading, you can always have somebody who's a good reader to read these books to you. And so anyway, on to the next book, Devil's Notebook. Just a couple things here. One is television is the major mainstream infiltration of the new Satanic religion. Well, you hardly find any Satanism on television. Occasionally on a talk show, you might find somebody in Satanism that that they interview or have on a show. But I really don't know. I don't watch talk shows. I'm not into talk shows. I tried, but that's just not my thing. It's fine that you are if you are, but they're not for me. And but anyway, but yeah, television has become the new god. And if you read the Devil's Notebook, he will tell you that television has become the new god, and I agree with him. I mean, almost everybody has a television in their living rooms or somewhere in their house. Heck, we got television in almost every room in our house, so yeah, we're big offenders on television. So anyway, the next point is the first commercial broadcast was aired on Burgess Knott, April 30th, 1939, at the New York's World Fair. So I kind of marked it up because I thought it was an interesting fact. So yeah, it is. I guess you could say it is. There is some evidence that in that point that television is satanic and whatnot. And then the last point I got marked here. Let me see here. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3 pages long. But here in this one it's several pages, but it's a little video book, so probably, I know a guy who actually read this. I loaned it to. Actually read it the Satanic Bible in one night. This here is like about 100 pages, give or take. So it probably shouldn't take you that long to read it. So anyway, the last point I have here is atheism wasn't tolerated when scriptural dictates were in fashion accepted in the world as the world. Well, in the 1950s, everybody was there's a word here. I'm drawing a blank here, but there's a term here that I'm trying to think. Conservative, but it wasn't called conservatism. So almost everybody was conservative in the 1950s. Of course, then you had the whole hippie movement, and liberalism really started coming onto its own. Then it continues. Now, thanks to Satanism infiltration. No, wait. Now, thanks to satanic infiltration, it's safe to say quote, I don't believe in God, unquote. Well, I'm an atheist, and I'm not afraid to say, if this was the 1950s, I wouldn't be making YouTube videos on Satanism and whatever, yeah. But, of course, it didn't happen back in those days, but, I wouldn't stand on the street corner and say I'm a Satanist. Well, I wouldn't stand on the street corner today and say I'm a Satanist either, but I wouldn't be as open as I am today. But modern heresy, not conforming to television lifestyle, not accepting television truth, is liable to be punished with as much righteous enthusiasm as ever. Well, he brings up a pretty good point there, because it's almost like television has become a religion in today's society, at least in America. It's like if you don't watch certain television shows or certain whatever, you could be seen as heresy. I'm thankful that I go to the Ivy Center where everybody's real accepting of me, of how different I am from everybody else. In fact, it's encouraged to be different. Everybody's different and all that, and it's encouraged. And that's a good thing. And I'm glad that the staff there encourages, because I feel safe going there and I feel safe discussing, having open conversations with them, except about religion. Religion's hardly ever brought up. You might hear somebody's mentioned God in passing and a prayer in passing, but, beyond that, there's no real discussion on religion. So, I'm glad we had this talk. This is Billy Bob the Door 999 signing out.